I talked to another engineer. He said, I can't get these people to stay past 4:55 p.m. I said, what do you do? He said, we create pipes. We build pipes. We design piping. So water, tell me about that. Who buys it? Well, right now we're working on a project to build PVC pipes and design irrigation systems in the Sudan. So you're telling me that you've got a bunch of engineers that come to work every day to help feed third world countries, and they don't know it. Gen Z wants to know that they can make a difference, purpose and meaning. Come to work, do the engineering. You're feeding third world countries by watering crops because you're making the pipes that the water flows through. You are a part of the big picture. This is your mission. Feed the hungry. We've never seen anything like Gen Z ever in the history of mankind.
Can you give us an age date?
Sure. Gen Z is going to be born 1997 through 2012. So right now, the oldest they are is about 29, and the youngest is 12 or 13. That give you an idea? They're the ones that are entering the workforce right now. And so what we have is people like me, and I call myself a legacy leader. CJ is a legacy leader. Skip is a legacy leader. We're the guys that have been in the business a while back. Well, the leader part is questionable for Skip, but throwing shade at an old friend. Sorry about that. Yeah. Hey, I expect it to come back, brother, so that's all good. So we have legacy leaders, and then we have this new group here. So boomers, they're the old group like me and above, right? Then you've got Gen X, the next one's down. Gen X came in after the boomers. Gen X are the ones that were raised in the materialistic generation, so their mindset is how much can we get? They're very disciplined, they're very hardcore, very opinionated. And then you got the millennials, they come along after that, and millennials said, hey, that didn't all work out, so I'm gonna get mine. I'm gonna do the best I can for me and my family, and I want to think differently about certain things that Gen X didn't think about. And then along comes after them Gen Z. They're digital natives, so we have legacy leaders, and we have digital natives. And those are the two classifications that I see in the workforce now. And so when I sat down to write a book about a year ago, it's called The Marketing Gap. The idea was, let's talk about brand versus transactions. The world is so digital now. Everything is about a transaction digitally, right? And so I was like, well, let me write about that because I'm a brand guy. I believe in building long-term value for companies. And that's the brand. But everything goes towards transactions now in digital marketing. So I wanted to write a book about it. And the more I wrote, the more I realized I'm writing about the wrong thing. The problem in marketing, and actually in all of business nowadays, is the generational gap that exists. Here's the deal. These Gen Z guys were born connected. They're digital first. They were born with this thing in their hands. Right? This generation has never known a generation without this technology. We are adapters. I had to adapt and adopt technology, right? These guys, they speak this language. They think like an iPhone works. They swipe left when they don't like something. That's their lifestyle. They select what they want and reject what they don't. Their mindset is very different from a boomer, from a millennial, from Gen X. They just think differently than we do. We're established, experienced, and structural. They are very, very fluid in the way that they think. So the smartphone has impacted them tremendously. And let's talk about exactly what that looks like real quick. Social media created massively fragmented ideologies. So they're looking at social media and everybody's opinion is right in front of them. They just choose one that feels right for that moment. And that's how they will operate for that day, or that week, or that month. And then the next time something else gets popular, oh, okay, that's the way I need to go, okay? And then a few months later, this one's popular, okay, I need to do this so I can fit in. So their feedback loop is right there in this one small area, this phone, but it spans the entire world. Very interesting, right? The most connected, least committed generation we've ever seen on the planet Earth. They're more connected, least committed, least engaged than we've ever seen. And it makes it very interesting. But I'll get into some of the good points here in a second too. Less personal interaction, more virtual connection. Their foundational human traits like identity, belief, ethos, character, all those values, they become very fluid. For us, those values are solid. For us, those are values that generate how we think and how we behave. For them, they behave differently depending on the situation. They're very circumstantial. They're very situational in what they believe and how they choose to operate. I'm not going to throw a lot of shade in that direction and say that's wrong, but it doesn't work in a traditional system. So you have a clash of systems, right? You've got two different ideologies at work here. You've got the legacy leader and the Gen Z digital native. Digital natives think the way that they do for a number of reasons, and I've looked at a lot of them. One of them is they watch their parents. They've watched us. They've watched us at work and they've said, that's not for me. I don't want that kind of struggle. I don't see a lot of healthy things going on here. And you know what? They're not wrong. We've really messed some things up in our lives. And we've done a lot right too. We're just human beings. We're all in this together. I'm not saying I'm not making a valuative statement about that necessarily. What I'm saying is I messed up a lot of things when I was raising my 3 kids. But by the grace of God, they're all doing well. And we can all say, look, we've got good and bad spots. No question about it, right? But they looked at this and they said, gosh, I want something different. So subjective world focus, they really are very interested in my truth and not the truth, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. Tell your truth, just speak your truth, just live your truth. And although I understand the sentiment there, be authentic, be your real self. I can buy into that. But the truth is the truth. Truth, by very definition, is not subjective, right? It is what it is. But in this generation, they think differently. They believe that the truth is how they feel and what they think in the moment. And next week, there might be a different truth, right? It's very difficult to nail them down. It's very difficult for us as legacy leaders to communicate and to establish protocol, process, systems. You see the conflict there? It gets really kind of dicey. Now, let me pause for a second and say this. I want to be real clear that I'm not trying to stereotype anyone. I know I've just done that for the last 5 minutes, but I really don't want to create stereotypes because you all know an exception to that rule. I'm a boomer, but nobody I know would say I think and act like a boomer except in some ways, some small ways. I think more like a Gen X or a millennial. Maybe it's because of the career I'm in, right? I know some Gen Z people that have a lot of boomer tendencies, like you guys are talking about, right? I know that there's a mix out there. And I know that this isn't true for every single person. But what is true is where they've come from and how their mentality, how their actions have been formulated and what it's based on. So that last bullet there, lack of genuine community. This can't be understated. This can't be overstated, excuse me. Community mirrors our behavior, right? When we have groups like this, we kind of know how to act. Groups like this help define us. They help tell us where the rails are on either side. You can say this, you can't do this. And, that's just human nature. When we fit into a tribe, that tribe has an ethos. And when we get outside of that ethos, we're kind of pulled back in, whether it's from just a side eye or whether it's, hey, you really need to kind of get your act together and come back into the lane here, right? That's not always spoken, but it's definitely communicated to us. When there's a lack of community, there's a lack of boundary, there's a lack of reflection on our personality. How do we know whether we're doing it right or not unless somebody is reflecting that back to us? Well, this generation has been isolated through COVID. They've been focused right here on their phone, and the phone is not going to give them feedback other than what everybody else thinks. They don't know you. It's plastic. It's fake. It's a fake community that they feel like they're a part of. And so they're getting false feedback, and that false feedback creates an echo chamber for them. And they're constantly looking in the wrong place for affirmation, for significance, for importance, for inspiration. So you can see how this stuff just becomes, it just piles on one thing after another. It just piles on and piles on for this younger generation. They're the most connected, most disengaged generation we have ever seen. So the swipe left generation, you know what swipe left means, right? Yeah, so they just, if they can't deal with a problem, just swipe left. If you can't deal with a problem, just move on, right? It's not, again, I'm not trying to stereotype, but the tendency there, and I've raised 3 of these, okay? I know, I've seen this in my own home. They're connected but not committed. They like to ask why first. We tell them, do this, and instead of yes, sir, yes, ma'am, which is what we're used to, they're gonna say, why? I'm not here to serve you. If it fits my ethos, I'll do it, right? Their mindset is different. They struggle with paying their dues. We all had to pay our dues coming up. We all had to struggle, start from the bottom. They don't want to do that. Why should I do that? There may be a better opportunity out there. I'm not going to believe it just because you said it. It's an attitude. It's a different mentality that they've got. They seek purpose and meaning at work. Hey, I don't think that's wrong. I think that's great. I think we've got a lot we can learn from them. Purpose and meaning. It's not just making money. As a matter of fact, purpose and meaning is higher on their preference list for a job than money. They'll take less money if they believe the job gives them purpose and meaning, if they can have a lasting impact. I kind of like that. I think we can learn a lot from that. They have a distrust in people in general, except for their parents. They trust their parents. It's just an odd mix. They didn't rebel. They're just different. But they don't trust what other people say. Why not? Well, when you spend all day right here, and then the next week what you saw is not true, you kind of tend to say, I don't know. It's true for today, but maybe not tomorrow. But yet they still don't have the foundation to refer to. You know, so it's a very interesting dynamic when you're talking about them. You know, their first job, Gen Z's first job out of college typically, or even if they don't even go to college, their first job usually lasts about a year, maybe 17 months. It's not very long. As an employer, you know that it takes about 6 months to get somebody ramped up and to get them to where they're functional without constant supervision. So there's not a whole lot of productivity there in the first 12 to 17 months, and then they bounce and they're looking for something else. Here's what typically happens. I'm a marketing guy, and in the marketing space, what typically happens is we will hire a Gen Z person, somebody right out of college, 23 years old or whatever, 22, 23, and typically he or she will come in as a marketing coordinator or a social media coordinator. You know, that's kind of the starting point for a lot of us in the marketing field. And they will tell that Gen Z person, the legacy leader like me, says, okay, great, go ahead and do the social media thing and the digital stuff and make us famous. Go do your thing, make us famous. Go use the FaceTube. And, you know, that's a joke, by the way. Go use Facebook, go use Instagram, go do your thing and make us famous. They're really good at it. They're like, man, they know Canva and Adobe Creative Suite and Figma, and they can do social media posts, they can shoot video, they can edit it, they can do it in their sleep, they do it for fun, and we're hiring them, we're like, man, this is great. They're fast, they really get it. I don't even have to know about this world. And then 12 months later, we're going, where's the ROI? Where is the money? Where's the income? Where's the revenue? What did I do? I hired this person, I keep paying this person. I see our social media is better, but where's the ROI? I had a really great conversation with a young lady who's 25 years old. She's been working for 2 years in the marketing field. Met her at a business meeting. She asked me to sit down with her and have a cup of coffee and talk. And I said, so how's it going? She said, well, honestly, not really good. Not real good. I thought I would really love my job, and I do love what I do, and I'm good at it. But I don't know why I'm here. I'm lonely. I said, you're lonely? You got 40 people on staff over there. She goes, yeah, and none of them know my name. I don't know why I'm here. And frankly, I don't really know how this company makes money. I'm not sure how my job makes a difference in this company. And I thought, wow, are we onto something here? So I started asking a lot of my Gen Z friends, a lot of my kids' friends, and I started having meetings at coffee shops with people that are under 30 years old in any professional workspace. And I saw it over and over and over again. I'm bored, I'm lonely, I'm tired, I don't get it, I'm uninspired, I'm good at what I do, nobody appreciates it, nobody's guiding me, nobody's talking to me. I see this over and over and over again. I thought, wow, we've really messed up because, well, for a lot of reasons. But the problem is they're feeling one way and we're looking at it from a very different perspective, right? But the challenge is we need them. We can't just ignore them and fire them, right? We need them. We have to have their skill set. Let me put it this way. I'm 61 years old. The synapses in my brain are not elastic enough for me to ever learn what they already know before they get the job. I just can't learn it fast enough. It's coming too hard, too fast. Can we talk about AI for a second? Too hard, too fast. I can't keep up. I can learn it, and I'm engaged in learning it every single day because it's my job and it's my role, but I'll never be what they can be because they're born with it. They're digital natives, so I need their abilities. The technology is the norm. AI is taking over. They think like an iPhone works. They get 10 times the output in 1/10 of the time. And that's a real mathematical formula. That's 100 times plus of what I can do. 100 times. When you talk about technology and how that stuff works, the potential of productivity is so much greater than for me in the digital space, especially. They are your leadership pipeline. We don't have a choice. If we want to have leaders in our company for the future, we don't have a choice. We have to address these folks. We have to pay attention to them. Here's the scary thing, and if you don't remember anything that we've said today, that I've said today, this is probably the most important thing. By the year 2030, 30% of the American workforce will be Gen Z. 1/3 of the American workforce. It's not going away. The problem is it exists, and it will continue to exist. And if we ignore it, if we fire them all and say, I did talk to a legacy leader the other day. I was sitting in a coffee shop, had coffee with him, and said, I cannot get my team to make a phone call. I can't get them to pick up the phone. He's in the fundraising business. He runs a $30 million foundation. And he's hiring these young professionals who have degrees in sales and marketing and philanthropy and all these things. And they come on board, they want to text. They want to use the software. They don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to have coffee with people. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to have to start all over. And I'm like, well, good luck with that. We've got a problem. All right, so what do we do about it? The boss thinks like this: work hard, sacrifice, get rewarded. They think, you don't own me. The boss says, just do it. Nike, right? Just do it. You know what to do, just do it. They think, why? Why do it? The boss says, figure it out. And they say, hostile work environment. I'm sorry. I don't get it. I don't like this. I don't like swipe left. Swipe left. Am I right? That's how they think. That's your problem. That's your issue, right? They come to you with something. That's actually a personal problem. I need a mental health day. I mean, I'm not wrong. I've seen it. I've dealt with it. I've worked with clients all the time who have this problem in their businesses. So here's the answer.
Oh, wait, can you go back? That was a good
Sure.
slide.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sending that to HR.
Yeah. They probably know it already, I promise you. Yeah. And there's so many more just like this. The mentality is different. I've tried to show you, I showed you where it comes from, and now you're seeing it play out in real life at work, right? And it's a huge challenge. We can't bury our heads in the sand and pretend like it doesn't exist, because it does. So how do we fix it? Well, here's my challenge. It's not easy. And here's my shut up mark here. So I'll start to wrap up here. Here's the challenge. We have to lead differently. And as much as I know we don't want to change at our age, we're going to have to. Just like AI has changed everything, there's a new operating system that needs to run in our leadership mentality. We no longer can act autocratically and tell people what to do and then manage it and then reward it like we used to. That's not a bad system. It just doesn't work anymore because the crew that we're managing is very different. They don't think like we think. So instead of directing, we now have to coach. And I'll describe what that looks like. Directing is this, face to face. This, I'm talking to you, I'm going to say something to you, I'm going to ask you to do something, I'm face to face. But coaching is shoulder to shoulder. Hey, that's the goal up there. How are we going to achieve that goal? What do you think about that? What do you see? Oh yeah, I see that too. What about this? Great. Can you do this? Fantastic idea. When can you have that done? I don't know. Is Tuesday better because I need it by Tuesday because I have these things? Great. Okay, I'll check in with you tomorrow. Good job, man. Thanks. Talk to you later. That's coaching. Directing is do this. I need it by Friday. That's your problem. Get it done. Just do it. All that stuff. Nothing wrong with that. We've run companies and made a lot of money that way. But they'll walk out the door. We can't keep them that way. And we need them because they're our leadership pipeline. They're our digital natives. We have to have their support. So instead of demand, we collaborate. We have to go side by side, shoulder to shoulder, not face to face. Protective. We protect our territory at work, our income, our revenue. We protect the fiefdom that we built, the company that we built. And we have a right to. We built that company. But they want to collaborate. They want to be they want it to be transparent. They want to know what's going on in that world. The just do it mentality versus the what if mentality. Instead of just do it, just maybe say to them, what if you did this? Get their feedback, get them talking, get them thinking. They want to be valued, and this will do it. Figure it out, just go figure it out. I know it's a problem, that's your job, go figure it out. Well, how about doing this? Well, I'm not sure the answer, but here's what success looks like. This is what it looks like to be successful. Do you think you could work on that? And give me 3 ideas. Break it down for them. Engage. They didn't learn this when they were 10. We did. We need to help them along just a little bit. Am I babysitting? I was accused of telling people that we need to babysit and do things that their parents should have done. Maybe so, but here's the question. If you don't do it, what's going to happen? If you don't do it, they're walking, you've lost all the investment you've made in them, and you're still not any better than you were. It's still a problem that exists. That's your problem. I'm sorry that you're going through that, but that's your problem. That's not work related. Get back to work. It's a little harsh, but we do it all the time, right? They say, well, I need a mental health day, right? Well, what if we just said, that sounds really hard. Tell me more. Now, it takes time. You got to listen. But, wow, that sounds really hard. Tell me more. This actually happened. I was talking to a group just like this a few months ago. And this lady, a legacy leader, stood up and she said, I have something to say. Yes, ma'am. She said, I had a Gen Z employee come up to me, walk into my office and say, I need a mental health day. I am overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated. And I need a day off. We're on deadline. What am I supposed to do with that? And I said, wow. And I said, that's tough. She goes, I could have punched her in the face. And I was like, whew, okay. Please don't punch her in the face. Did you punch? She goes, no, I didn't. I said, well, tell me more. What happened? And she said, well, after I got over my initial shock, how dare her do that? This is a job and I'm paying her. I sat down with her and I said, what is going on? She started telling me all the things in her life that are happening. I started seeing, she's not being reinforced. She's not being checked in with. She's not being supported. We have failed her in helping her achieve her job and her goals. That was our fault. So they were able to come to some common ground there, right? But it happens all the time. I feel the same way about a lot of the Gen Z folks that I work with. I'm like, are you kidding me? You won't make a phone call? I had an employee that was Gen Z come to me and say, I gave him an 11% raise after the first year of working there. And said, man, you're fantastic. You've done 11%. That's pretty big in my world. And she said, well, my daddy taught me if I do a good job, then I get rewarded for it. I'm like, well, what do you think an 11% raise is? That's a pretty good raise for somebody that's right out of school, after the first year. And, 3 months later, she quit. I was like, wow, I think there are a lot of people that might want this job. Yeah, but will they keep it? That was the big challenge. So this is the challenge. We have to lead differently. There's just really no other option. Here's what's going to happen if we do. Well, I'm sorry, let me do this. The 4 C's of coaching. I'll blow through these because we're about out of time. Coaching, not telling. We got to shift from directional to developmental. We focused on growing our company so much we forgot about our people. You know, that's a shame. We have to focus on our people. Collaboration, not cooperation. We want them to just cooperate with the system. Well, what happens if we just back up and ask them to collaborate, or we collaborate with them to get things done? The objective is to get it done, right? Cultivate curiosity. Here's something I write about in the book. Curiosity cannot be taught, but it can be learned. If you're curious about your people, just like that lady was, who said I could have punched her in the face, she got curious, and it solved a lot of problems for her. She began to get curious about this generation. How can I work with this generation? And she's got something really nice going there. Remove generational stereotypes, cut the bias. I was guilty of saying, these are entitled snowflakes and I want to have nothing to do with them, right? Well, I got to cut that out. I got to stop calling them those words, right? I'm not wrong. They kind of are, right? And I've told them so. And I share this with them. I teach Gen Z how their boss thinks. And I teach their bosses how Gen Z thinks. Not what, but how. I have the same conversation with a bunch of young people in the room under 30, and I tell them about you, and they're like, oh, that's what they want? It's amazing when you see how that gap can be bridged. They're like, oh, I had no idea that if I do this, then they do this, and then that's how money is made. I didn't know that. I thought they just wanted me to do it. Really? Okay, no valuative judgments there. Here's what's going to happen if we don't do this. If we don't engage, we're going to lose our leadership pipeline. We're going to hire people that are a whole lot more expensive than somebody right out of school. We're going to have to, right? And will it be any better? It's questionable. Digital ability fades. We will lose our digital ability overnight if we get rid of all of our Gen Z. The problem will still exist. You can't bury your head in the sand. Costs are going to go up all across the board, and then we're just not going to get any better. I'm not going to get any better as a leader. If I don't lead differently, if I still lead the same way I did 20 years ago, I'm no better. And I like to improve. I like to grow, and I think you do too. Here's what happens if you do. Amazing digital talent on board. Recruiting sensation. Man, everybody will want to come work for your company. Everybody will want to come volunteer for your organization. Amazing digital talent, recruiting sensation. People will be talking about you. Gen Z says, that's a great company to work for. You should go to work for them. I've got lots of stories like that. Lower cost, higher output. We talked about productivity. You can develop skilled leaders for your pipeline. You've got people now that you're training to take over. You're training them your way. You've got their ear. Now they're engaged. Now they're committed. Culturally strong workplace. Man, you've heard the phrase, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Build a culture that loves Gen Z, and you will have a strong culture that will last any storm in business. Finally, the most important part is you'll become a leader worth following. People will pay attention to you and your company, and people will ask you for jobs. They'll ask your opinion, and they'll ask you to help them fix and bridge the generational gap. Y'all got any questions? There's a lot there, isn't there? Yeah, I mean, I see faces, I see people going, yeah, and he's like, not so much, and I get it. It's all over the map. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned, obviously you do a lot of group discussions.
Yes.
What does it look like to do a group discussion with both legacy leaders and individual leaders in the group?
There's a lot of aha moments. So I did that at a coffee shop. I had 3 legacy leaders and 4 Gen Z kids, students. They're not really students, they're actually graduates, but I need to get better at referring to Gen Z professionals. Thank you. And we sat in a room and we talked, and we tried to talk about issues. What came from that was the big thing that was missing is the mission. They didn't fully understand, Gen Z didn't fully understand what the mission was because the legacy leader wasn't communicating it well. Like I said earlier, the legacy leader is just saying, here, go make me famous. And they just leave them to their own vices, right? Well, what came from that was, oh, you want us to do this because X. You wanted me to do that. I didn't know that. All I thought was I was supposed to toe the line. And I'm kind of rebelling against towing the line. But if you tell me why that line needs to be towed and make me a part of that mission, okay, I'm all in. And I'll go you one better. What ended up happening is one of the leaders said, what if I just give you the mission and you tell me how you can help me accomplish it? Because I don't know your world. And they lit up. This group of 4 Gen Z professionals lit up. They started having their own powwow about the problem, and only one of them worked in that industry. It was amazing to see. That's bridging the generational gap. And that's what I do in my workshops, is I'll help Gen Z understand how legacy leaders think, and I help legacy leaders understand how Gen Z thinks. And so when we do these things, we see the light bulbs start to go off. We also have some conflict, but conflict is good. If it's controlled and it's natural, it's good. That's not a bad thing. Great question. Anything else? Yes, sir. Russ. We did, yes.
Everything you're saying is really applicable to being a grandparent these days.
Yeah, grandparenting, sure.
Making that comparison as you go along, you almost have to have another book.
Yeah. When are you going to write it? You need to write it, Russ. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, my daughter just gave birth 10 weeks ago to my first grandchild. And thank you. It's Brooklyn Ruth. And she has been very instrumental in helping me with this book that I wrote, because she's in marketing and she asked a lot of the questions that her generation is asking. She read one of the first manuscripts and she had some pointers, and it has been great. I have twin daughters, they're 26, and the other one is a lawyer. And so she read the book and she's like, yeah, this is great. I love this. And this is really good, but boy, this structure is all wrong. So, so she helped me edit, that was really good. But they think like Gen Z, but they have a great relationship with their parents. And so they kind of understand the boomer mind, right? So that was a big plus. And then my son is a little bit older, and he's a doctor, and he lives in Memphis, and he didn't have time to read the book. So that's fine. Yes, sir.
So as a business owner / leader.
Yes, sir.
Again, this the paraphrase, I think what I heard you say is that you get the ownership in the business, that buy into their position, and then to become an equity.
That is, I like how you phrase that. It's not necessarily business structure and ownership. It's more of a personal feeling of ownership of the job or the task. It's more of one of the things that I teach Gen Z in my book is own your job. Owning your job is taking personal responsibility for seeing it all the way through, not just checking the boxes and turning it in and checking out at 4:55 p.m. I mean, I talked to a legacy leader not too long ago. She said, I employ a bunch of engineers. I supervise engineers. And I told them, guys, we got this big project. It's the biggest project we've had in 10 years here at the company. I need all hands on deck for the next couple of weeks. I really need your best work. I need your full attention. Put other things on hold if you would, please. Even let your family members know that you might need to be staying late. I just need you. And this is going to be big. We're all going to benefit from this, okay? Hands in, ready, break. That afternoon, everybody was gone at 4:55. She's like, what just happened? She was upset. And I said, well, tell me more about your team. When do you talk with them? Do you know their parents' names? Do you know their spouses' names? Do you have any personal connection at all? Well, I mean, some, I guess, and so we started getting into it. We realized they're not connected. They don't know the mission. They don't understand what you're trying to accomplish. You told them, I need your hard work, but you didn't tell them why. I talked to another engineer. He said, I can't get these people to stay past 4:55 p.m. I said, what do you do? He said, we create pipes. We build pipes. We design piping. Okay, tell me about your piping. Who buys it? People all over the world. What goes in the pipes? Water, chemicals, whatever it is. We design it specifically for that. Well, so water, tell me about that. Who buys it? Well, right now we're working on a project to build PVC pipes and design irrigation systems in the Sudan. So you're telling me that you've got a bunch of engineers that come to work every day to help feed third world countries, and they don't know it. You didn't tell them that? He's like, I didn't think about it that way. I said, yeah, see, Gen Z wants to know that they can make a difference, purpose and meaning. Come to work, do the engineering. You're feeding third world countries by watering crops because you're making the pipes that the water flows through. You are a part of the big picture. This is your mission. Feed the hungry. It's not do the work that I tell you to do. From autocratic to coaching. If we can put the mission in the middle and help them to understand what the mission is and get them to own it, just like we own it, we can sit back and watch them do their magic. They're amazing. I love Gen Z for that. I love the fact that they will take something and go so much farther than I could ever have taken it if we give them a chance. But if they don't understand the mission, they're not going to get it. It's just the old white dude wants me to do this. That's usually what I get. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment on that for this question as well.
Yeah. Tuck your shirt in.
Why?
Yeah, why? There you go. That's good.
So one thing that you mentioned about and I'm not yet on the millennial, but one thing that you mentioned about kind of the digital connection and all that stuff, I would say that the Gen Z is, in my experience, they're kind of shifting almost away from digital.
Yeah.
And maybe as you're talking, I'm drawing a connection between that meaning in their work versus the lack of meaning in their digital connections. So,
Okay, yeah.
When I go to small town, Ruston,
Yeah, great town.
Kind of the Gen X boomer, a lot of mentality. I'm still a part of it.
That's awesome.
So growing up, a lot of my meaning came from my connections.
Sure. Yeah.
When I scroll through 46,000 different, data points on all different subjects, I think all purposes meaningless. And I started to notice myself, especially when I was creating meaning work.
Yeah.
Because life, quote unquote, started to feel less meaningful. So I get that. I really like what you're saying with that. If you want to say you're just making it, just make it honest.
Yeah. Give me something to shoot for. Yeah, give me something to aim at. Yeah, I read an interesting article that Gen Z, and we're about to wrap up here, but Gen Z is not adopting AI as fast as we thought. They're able and capable much faster than I am, but I'm more interested than they are. And so I was curious, why? About 65% of Gen Z is kind of like putting AI on hold, and they're looking for jobs that don't involve technology. The swing is coming the other way. It's really interesting. That blew me away. I was like, wait, what kind of job? Plumbers, some electricians, stump grinding, arborists, tree work, natural stuff, they're gearing more towards that. They're starting to investigate some of those trade jobs, which we really need. We desperately need them in trades. So that's kind of good news, but you're right. The electronic digital world has disconnected us and made it very plastic. Again, purpose and meaning. They want it, and if we can give it to them, we're going to do a whole lot better in our work. Thank you all. You've been great. Good questions. Appreciate it.